which is where you'll start when you load the SDK. If anyone has any questions at any point, please feel free to ask in the chat. I am reading it and I will do my best to answer you, because once again a lot of people have been asking for tutorials and things like that. So if you're not sure about what ModBuddy is, when you load it up you can actually create a template map pack if you want to create levels for XCOM, and it will put some default content in there for you, which is handy to look at. So this is what the more maps pack looks like right now. So let's just close these up so we can go through it. So we've got a folder for parcels, PCP and plots. Plots are what I was just talking about, so essentially like the city planning, I like to call it, phase of XCOM 2 levels, where it tells the game where the roads are, where the hills are, and where buildings can be put in the map. So it's essentially very simple, like broad overview of the map. And then you've got the parcels, which are the actual pieces of content which get stamped down into the map. So things like buildings, actually mostly completely buildings. So if you look in here, we've got the pawn shop which I made, we've got a security station, graveyard, the advent landing pads that I've been doing, that have been released in the mod. So all of these have tags on them. You can see here, okay, we've got a billboard with crashed vehicle. This will spawn in the neighborhood tag and in the small town tile set. So that's how the plots know what items they can stamp down into the map with these tags here. And of course you can set like other things here as well, like which ways they can facing, where the driveways are to connect to the rest of the map. So that's what parcels are, and you can tag some of these parcels in the plot to say this can be an objective in a mission. And then you've got the PCP, which is basically things like when you put a road down in the plot, it'll just be like a proxy geometry. It'll look really dull and boring, but it's just there to show where the road will be. And when you load into the game, the PCP will replace that boring road piece with like all the proper road piece with like cars and lights and, you know, all the fancy textures and effects. And it will pull those PCPs from here. I think I've only made one so far. I know we've got the wall sections here, but so we've got a slum boulevard street 16 by 16, and this is the one I made with the Advent APC, which is been T-boned by a lorry and is on fire. So it can pull this PCP for a section of road if it wants to. It like pulls them randomly. So that is basically how map generation works. Hey Noisegate, what's up? Now, unfortunately the editor takes ages to load because I put it on my mechanical hard disk, because XCOM 2 by itself is about 30 gig, and then you've got another 40 or 50 gig of SDK on top of that. It's too big for my solid state drive, so this might take a while. No, it's not Hammer, we're doing XCOM 2 today, so it's Unreal Engine 3. And once again, for anyone joining the stream, feel free to ask questions at any point. I'm more than happy to answer them. That's kind of what this whole stream is about. Giving people a kickstart into the SDK so that they don't get hopelessly lost. So we'll probably look around some content first so you can get an idea, and then we'll go into editing my modular wall set for my upcoming update. Brilliant, we have retweets. That's good. And the editor has crashed. That's interesting. Oh, it's going to be one of those streams, isn't it? I've never seen it done that before. Let's try again. How long did it take you to get used to the XCOM tools? Well, I have used Unreal Engine 3 before, so I was fairly confident with the editor already. It's just a case of learning all the new stuff which XCOM 2 brought in. Like, the most important thing with XCOM 2 is the grid. Because it's a tile-based game, you have to work on the grid. The grid is God. If you move stuff off grid, you're going to have an extremely bad time. And we'll talk about that in more detail later on. Okay, so let's just load up some default content first, just to show you what we're talking about here. Get some nomenclature going. Okay, so the folder you want to be looking in to load up pieces of content for XCOM 2, you want to go into the XCOM 2 SDK, you want to go to XCOM Game, Content, XCOM 2 Maps, and then you're going to have all our stuff here. Did you make some maps for the retaliation missions? That is what we're going to be doing today. That's my current project, but we're just going to go over some basic stuff first to get everyone kind of up to speed. So the main pieces of content, like I've been talking about, are PCPs, parcels and plots, which are these three folders here. Let's look at parcels first because you'll understand the most from them. So if we load up some slums, and these are all the different parcels we've got for the slums. So we've got restaurants, row homes, convenience stores, liquor stores, pawn shops, gas stations. Let's load up the gas station. And parcels come in three sizes. You've got large, medium and small. The large has always got the LG in the file name, and they are 32 by 32 grid squares, like in-game grid squares. That's the largest piece of content you can make for the game currently. The medium plots are 16 by 32, so half the size on the width but the same length, and then these small parcels are 16 by 16, which is fairly small, but you can still do some cool stuff with it. Now, when you load these parcels, you'll notice you'll get a lot of errors and warnings. A lot of these can be safely ignored, as in they are just warnings. So like all these things here, like decals, do not have overlapping actors. This comes up a lot in the Firaxis parcels, so I'm not quite sure what's causing it, but everything works as expected. A decal is essentially just like a picture of something applied onto the environment, so like, say, some bullet holes, or, you know, a poster on the wall or something like that. You've got some collision. What's this? Simple collision, but it's been scaled non-uniformly. Collision creation will fail. This is saying that something in the map has not been scaled uniformly, which means that it has all three axes. You can scale an object on each axis individually, but you have to do them all on the same for the collision to work. Obviously this isn't too much of a problem here because we can set our own collision. And again, we've got more decal problems, so don't worry about most of this. Again, this is content which has come straight from the developers, so they're not too worried about this, so it stands to reason that you shouldn't be either. And honestly, this stuff, I'm not quite sure where this is coming from, but everything seems to load fine, so yeah. I'm still learning a lot of this stuff myself, so... And then you can see this is the gas station. So this is a large tile, 32 by 32. So in a plot, it will say like you can put a large parcel here, and then the map might pick this parcel to stamp down in that position. And you can see you've got all the objects which you might expect to see. Let's go to game mode so it's easier to see. You've got the car park, you've got all the effects, lighting. Everything that looks as you would expect it to. Now, some things which are definitely worth noting is that you've got a lot of like boxes like this all over the place. Now this is how buildings work in XCOM 2. You can't just build a building and then leave it, because the game won't understand what walls to hide when you go up and down floors with the camera in game. So you have to set all that up ahead of time, which is what all these various boxes and things are for. They're setting where the various floors are and what objects should be hidden when you're on that floor. This is a really, really important thing to do. Let's just take this piece here. Let's just focus on this bit of gas station here. So you can see we've got this green box here, which is the floor volume. If I load this up, I'll bring this onto here so you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see we've got XCOM Building Volume 1, and then you've got the floors setting here. So it's got 1, 2 floors, and you can add more floors by using the plus button here. I think 3 is the max. It's like a hard limit of 3. So 3 or 4, I forget. And floor 0 is always the ground floor. That always has to start on ground floor. So, and then inside we've got the smaller squares, which are the floor volumes. So we've got, this is designating the first floor, this is designating the second floor. Oops, damn it, I cannot select it. There we go. So this is the second floor. They're directly connected to each other. You see there's no gap, which is very important. And the height of this always has to be 256 units. We'll get into editing exact unit sizes a bit later, but for now just know that a floor is always 256 units tall. You can't change that. Hello Daz, I'm just tweaking my tactical flyover mod, seems appropriate. Also arrived just as you said, and that's how map generation works. Oh, I can go over it again if you like, but essentially what we're looking at right here is a single parcel in XCOM 2 which can be placed into a map when it generates. And we're just going through some basics of how XCOM 2 handles like visibility between floors, which is what I'm talking about right now. So basically whenever you create something with 2 or more floors, you need to create a XCOM building volume around it, set the floors inside of that, and then you need to set what objects should be hidden when you're on each floor. So you can see here I've got a lot of exclusion actors right here. This is saying when you're on this floor, don't hide these actors. And there's another one for inclusion actors, which is when you're on this floor, do hide these actors. Which is basically how that stuff works. Got it from you talking about parcels, thanks. Yeah, no problem. Like, for anyone just joining the chat, if you have any questions, please ask. That's kind of what this stream is about, getting people up to speed on XCOM 2 level editing. So any questions, just go ahead and ask. So yeah, you'll notice that everything on more than one floor has got one of these XCOM building volumes. Like this part of the gas station is exactly the same. 2 floors with a building volume around it. The main building in the front here has a building volume that covers the whole thing. And you'll probably notice that it has got a top floor and a bottom floor as well. You probably can't see the bottom one because it's hidden by static meshes right now. But if I quickly hide them, we turn off static meshes quickly. There you go, you can see the first floor building volume right there as well. Now that stuff, it's very, very tedious to set it all up because you have to go through each floor, select all the assets, make sure they're being hidden correctly, that they're assigned to the correct building volume so that it all hides correctly in game. It's very, very tedious and it can be annoying when you get it wrong and you have to go around and edit it all. But it's really important from a like usability perspective, because when people go onto your parcels, when they're playing their highest difficulty Iron Man game and they can't see what they're doing because a piece of your parcel hasn't hidden correctly, they're going to be very pissed off. So you definitely don't want to do that. You want to make sure that everything's working as expected. So do take the time to learn how the whole building volume thing works. There's documentation in the SDK. If I load it up, I've got my XCOM 2 folder here, which I've got shortcuts to all the so you've got the level design document, which I can load up, and this has got everything you could ever possibly want to know about building. Well, my computer's having a heart attack. Apparently my computer really doesn't like using this. That was interesting. Sorry if the stream froze. Apparently Microsoft Edge destroys my computer, so that's cool. So if we open file location, so all these documents are provided by Firaxis in the SDK. You can go to your XCOM 2 SDK folder, wherever you installed it in Steam, go to documentation. You've got a quick start guide here, which is useful if you know your way around Unreal Editor. Just use the quick start. If you don't know your way around it, you can drill down into all the specific aspects here, and the level design documents are fantastic. They'll go through all of this in detail. I highly recommend you read all of it. You can have more than 3 floors, but you need to change a few things to them. That is correct, yes. I heard that there is an edit you can do to allow more floors on buildings. I haven't looked at it any more than that, so just know that it is possible, but untested currently. And so, the basic way you build a parcel in XCOM 2 is you obviously want a floor, and Fraxis provide a ton of different floor tiles for you to just drop down. Most of them are the exact size of various parcels, so here, this is a medium-sized floor. Obviously this is a large parcel, so it only covers half of it. So the floor has been made here with 2 medium-sized floor meshes, which have been stitched together. And then various other detail pieces have been added on top. And it's the same with buildings as well. All the buildings, that's not a word, all the buildings are just meshes which fit together in a modular way. So you can kind of build a building very quickly using meshes, and they all stitch together, providing you're using the correct grid settings, which I'll get onto in a moment. All the buildings just kind of slot together exactly as you would expect. And the insides are the same way. So you've got pieces which fit around windows like this. You've got pieces that fit around doors like this. And it all just snaps together, providing you're using the right grid settings. All the insides as well, this is all just, again, meshes which slot together, and then you can just kind of set them up with various details to make it flow a bit better. So that's essentially how everything works. The one major difference is with things like, because all the buildings are destructible, you really have to keep that in mind. And the way destructibles work are, in the editor, it's called fracture meshes. So this floor here that I've selected, if you threw a grenade at it, it wouldn't all blow up. It would, you know, chunks of it would disappear. Go away, XCOM 2 editor. Try to talk. And the way that works is with, they're called XCOM 2 fracture meshes. Let's bring one up here. So you can see here the actor is called XCOM Tile Frac Level Actor. And whenever you place down a floor that you want to fracture into pieces when it takes damage, you have to use this actor. And obviously with the floor on the bottom here, you probably wouldn't want to make it a fracture mesh because it would just end up with a giant hole in the world. Which would be very bad. So certain meshes can only be added to specific types of actors. So it's probably impossible to use this floor mesh on a fracture actor, because you'd never want to create a hole in the floor here because you'd just fall and probably crash the game. The other thing I should probably talk about is like everything else. So you've got lights, which are all these actors here. Now lighting is something I'm still working on myself, because the way the PBR system works in this engine, Unreal Engine 3.5, is completely new to me, and from what I can tell the lighting is, a lot of it is custom as well, so but a lot of it makes sense. So you've got just kind of lights around here which kind of glow orange. If we double click this, you can see you can set the colour, you can set the brightness, you can set the radius, and all that kind of basic stuff you'd expect to find on a light. So that's kind of your basic light entities here. This one's obviously a spotlight that shoots down from this mesh here. I don't know. Oh, it is. It's its own separate actor for a spotlight. Okay, so that makes things easier. And then you can set things like the spotlight radius and colour and all that stuff as well. If you hit G, you can go into game mode. You can actually see what it looks like in game. There are no shadows in the editor, so just keep in mind that when you're playing in game, it will look a lot nicer because there'll be shadows cast off everything. But no shadows in the editor, unfortunately. But you can preview the lighting and your particle effects and sound and everything like that just by hitting G, and then hit G to go back into editor mode again. That is basically how that works. There's a lot of new light entities here, like this one. I'm not exactly sure what it does. Okay, so that is a movable spotlight apparently. That's cool. And a lot of entities will come pre-configured with lights as well, by using blueprints or prefabs. Like a lot of the cars here, you'll notice you can't select individual aspects of the car here. I click on the sound from the bonnet and nothing happens. I click on the particles at the back and nothing happens. It's because it's a blueprint. And you can see I can only select the giant green icon in the center there. If you open it, you can see it's an XCOM blueprint entity, and it references the sedan car. So if you want to add a car to your map, it's super easy. Just plonk that down and everything gets generated for you. Like the lights, the particle effects, everything just gets done. And there's lots of variations. There's things like cars with open and closed doors, cars which have been destroyed, all that kind of stuff. There's loads of blueprints for everything. Like police cars as well, it's another blueprint. And then there's the other type of blueprint is called a prefab, which is similar but not quite the same. A prefab just brings all the actors that make up whatever it is you've selected straight into your current map. It's not a blueprint, it just brings all the actors in and then you can edit them from there, so there's a slight difference there. And again, all these cars as well, they're all blueprints. So that is how that works. I don't suppose you know what actor class the regular explodable things are, like propane tanks, etc. And yes, petrol dispensers. Yeah, that is, they come pre-configured with the assets, I believe. So here's a petrol pump. If you click on it, yeah, it's an XCOM destructible actor, so it comes pre-configured. So what you can do, if you want to find out exactly where an actor is and what properties it uses, you can right-click on it in the editor. You can find it in Content Browser, which is Control B, or you can just use the right-click menu, find in Content Browser, and then this button up here, the kind of black button with what looks like an eye in it, it says Open Content Browser, so you can hit that. And if it's minimized, it'll be down here in the corner. You can see right there. You can just hit Restore and it'll bring it up. And now there's a couple of caveats which you have to take into account with the content browser. It's super useful to learn. This is basically where you're going to find all the content you ever need to place into your maps. It's got drag and drop functionality, but there's a couple of things you need to know. So I've got this mesh here, and it's found it in the content browser right here, but if I drag this straight into the editor like so, it'll put the mesh there, but it won't have any properties assigned to it, so it won't blow up, it won't be able to get damaged, it'll literally just sit there and do nothing, which is not what we want, so let's delete that. What we do want is, in the packages menu here, you can see there's an entire folder called Fuel Pump A. And if we hit that, you can see it's got all the textures for it, the models, various sound effects and destruction props, all this kind of stuff. But it doesn't load everything, it only loads what it's currently loaded in the map, so you need to right click on Fuel Pump A, hit Fully Load, and that will load everything here. When it's fully loaded, it will be in, you can see it will be highlighted and kind of bold white when it's fully loaded. And then you want to go to the Archetypes folder, and this is where it says XCOM Destructible Actor Fuel Pump A. Now, whenever you're placing an object into the environment from the content browser, you want to be using an archetype. An archetype is basically, it takes the mesh here, this is what we dragged in before, just the basic static mesh. You want to go to the archetypes, and this is the configured version of that asset. So it's an XCOM Destructible Actor, same model, we drag that in, boom, and now this version of the actor will have all the explosions set, it'll have all the gameplay implications that you will expect from a gas pump, i.e. it will explode, you can take cover behind it, when it explodes it will, deal damage and all that kind of stuff. So that is how you find assets, and this is all completely filterable and searchable as well. So if we type Advent in here, it will list all the Advent stuff in the game, so we can look for Advent Van. We can fully load this, and then we want to go to the archetypes, and you can see in the archetypes it's got all the individual pieces of the van, so we could construct a van from all these individual pieces. It would take a long time, but we could do it. Luckily they've included a blueprints folder as well, which has the fully configured van already assembled, so we can literally just drag this into the map and boom, we've got an Advent van. Lovely. And we just kind of move that around, place it wherever we want. You can see it's got all the lights on it, and it all stays together and moves around. It's even got an XCOM building volume around it in the blueprint, because you can get on top of it. You can see we can hit G to go into game mode, all the lighting is correct, and everything looks fantastic. Of course it's intersecting this wall here, which isn't great, but, So that is basically how the content browser works. Now, just be very, very careful as you're getting used to it, because I've done this thousands of times. I'll select an asset I want, find it in the content browser, open the browser, and then I'll be placing the static meshes of it around the place like this. And then when I get in game and nothing works, I'll be really confused, like why isn't it working? It's because you've been putting static meshes and not the actual archetype of the mesh. So just be very careful with that when you're populating your parcels. If you set your graphics to high, it can make the editor pretty unstable. If you do the run level in editor, you can change the graphics settings to turn the shadows on and they'll appear in the editor. Oh, interesting. That's good to know. I did not know that. So there you go. I generally stay away from the play in editor. And that's a good thing to touch on actually, because you can hit this, where is it? Yeah, there's this green button up here, play level in editor. So basically it will drop whatever you've got loaded at the time, it will drop you straight into the in-game version of it. You can move soldiers around, do all this stuff, but it is full of bugs, okay? It's generally not a very good way to test your content. Now, if you just want to make sure a soldier can fit through somewhere, then yeah, it's okay for that, but everything else I'd say big no-no. It comes with all kinds of pathing bugs, like your soldiers be able to teleport between floors and do all this kind of crazy stuff. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. So generally I would say when you really want to test your work, do a full export of your entire mod and play it in the debug mode. That's the best way to test it. It takes a little bit longer, it's a little bit more convoluted, but it's generally well worth the extra time to do that. We'll go through that a bit later on. Okay, so what have we covered? We've covered placing assets. We should talk about the content browser a bit more, because it's very, very important and you'll be spending a lot of time in it. So let's load up a build kit. This is a great tip. So if you want to quickly find everything you need to build a building, you want to type in BLD in the filter under packages, and you'll find all these build kit folders. Where are we? We're in slums right now. Here we are. So we've got build kit slums right here, and again it won't have loaded everything, so you want to right click it and do fully load, because we want to see everything that's in here. And as you can see, we've got archetypes, we've got meshes, we've got textures, we've got everything which we could possibly want to create a building using the slums tile set. And of course we want to use archetypes, so let's open up here, and we've got panels, we've got more panels, we've got trim, we've got various cover elements, windows, interior pieces, various fracture meshes. Okay, so as I was talking about before with the fracture meshes, these are the pieces that deform when explosions damage them. This is super important to know, because a lot of actors can be placed down without this. So you want to make sure that when you drag an item that you want to deform when it takes damage, that it is a tile frac level actor. So you can see all of these are tile frac level actors. I think they all are, so that's good. Yeah, but it is possible to add them as regular level actors, which won't, get destroyed when you shoot explosives on them. So be very mindful of this fact. I've done it plenty of times. I've basically built indestructible buildings without realising it. So you always want to keep that into account. So let's just do some quick stuff here just to show you how it all works. Now before we do all this, I'm going to talk about the grid, which is the most important thing you're going to learn about if you're just starting off in editing. The grid is God, especially in this game, because it's obviously a grid-based game. Obviously a grid square is one of these, and these are 96 units along each side. Okay, burn this number into your mind. 96 units is the length of one grid square along each side. And luckily the grid snap at the bottom here, right at the bottom of the editor down here, oh, you can't see it, my camera's covering it, hang on, let me turn all this stuff off. Webcam border, okay, just bear with me for a minute here. So right down here in the corner of the editor, you can see where my mouse is, you can turn on the snapping settings for the grid. You can see there's various options. 48 is handy, 96 is an exact snap of the grid, 48 is obviously half of that, which is generally what I use. So for example, with a grid snap of 48, if I restore this and just add in a wall like this, again you can just drag and drop this stuff, it's really super easy to use like that. And it will automatically snap to the grid when you place it, and you can see that when I move it, it's snapping to every half grid, which is super useful. And with movement, you can just select one of the movement handles in the editor here, so this will move it along that axis, this will move it that way. I can set the Z and move it up and down. Or you can aim for the box and have both axes active at the same time, so you can move it up and along. That's basic movement, but you always want to have the grid snap turned on. You can turn it off with this click box here, which will let you do super smooth, like this kind of stuff, but you never want to do this, especially with building parts. The only thing you'd ever want to use a non-grid snap thing on is for like super kind of high-res detailing. So like, let's try and find something around here. Like maybe these newspapers, maybe they don't quite fit in the corner, so you can turn off the grid snap and just move it exactly where you want. Because this has no collision, has no impact on gameplay, it's safe to do that. Whereas something like this, you know, you can take cover behind it, you know, it blocks line of sight. You have all these considerations to take into account, so you want to keep that snap to the grid at all points. If I do this and then save it, all of a sudden soldiers probably can't move into this square here because it's half covered by this thing. And I'm not sure how this square would work either. You might not be able to take cover on it from this side, it'd be very bad. So you really don't want to do that. And Control Z to undo, obviously is kind of universal now, but so we want the grid snap to be turned on at all times. So we've got a wall piece here. Obviously it doesn't look very cool. It's super kind of basic. So we want to add some more meshes to spruce it up a bit. Let's go back to the content browser. So we've got a window. So we want a panel with a window in it. Let's see here. Here we are. So we've got the XCOM destructible actor, which is what we want because we want this to get destroyed. And again, we can drag this out into the 3D view to create it. And this actually looks like exactly the same but textured, but it's actually not. It's just one side. You can see here. So you've got all the detail on this side, and this side is blank. So what we want to do is drag it onto this side like this. And you can see here, because it's grid snapped to 48, it's exactly on the grid mark, so it doesn't quite fit the mesh properly. So this is where you'd want to lower the grid size, it looks like down to about 4 perhaps, and just bring it out like so. So it snaps directly onto the front of the mesh there. Doesn't look quite right actually. Might need actually a grid 1 for this, so we're just going to bring it out a bit more. There, that looks fine. And we're going to put it back on 48. So we obviously want one on the other side as well, so if you hold Alt and then drag this, it'll create a copy. That's super useful, so you can just create copies of stuff by just holding Alt and moving it off where you are currently. And we obviously need to rotate this, so you want to hit space, and you can see the move gizmo change to a rotate gizmo. If you hit it again, it will turn to scale, so you can make it bigger and smaller like this, just by dragging on it. This is generally not recommended at all, apart from things like I was talking about with the newspaper here, because it's not a gameplay element, it's just a visual element. You can kind of scale and rotate it all over the place and it doesn't matter. Whereas with something like this, you scale it up and suddenly you've mostly messed up all the cover nodes around here, so you want to be really careful with that stuff. Alright, so we need to rotate this, we're going to hit space until we find the rotate gizmo, and then we can lock it to this axis and just bring it around. And another thing worth noting is that this is locked on 90-degree rotations currently, so you can see it only rotates 90, then 180, and back again if I move the mouse. This is changed right next to the grid snap down here. You can see it's got 90-degree rotations on the rotate. So you can set it to 45, you can set it... Generally I'd stick to 90, anything that you don't want at 90 degrees is probably just a free rotation thing, because generally, you know, the way the grid works in XCOM, stuff is at 90 degrees 99% of the time, so yeah, generally going to keep it like that. Another option is you can actually mirror static meshes, so you can right click on it, you can go to, where is it now, transform, and you can actually mirror on the various axes as well. This is super useful. Like if two objects aren't snapping together properly, you can mirror one of them to snap on it. It's really useful. Okay, so we've got our other corner for this, so we're going to bring it on, and once again we're going to have to use a smaller grid size to get it to line up correctly. That doesn't quite fit, so we're going to have to go to like grid 1, just ease it in there. Beautiful. So we've got our wall now, and it's got panels on it. It's starting to look really good. They're basically almost there. So now we're going to set our grid back to 48, because we always want that grid snap to half of a tile. And now we just need a window to put in here. So we're going to go back to the content browser. We're going to go to Windows. And all these, okay, we've got some windows here and a window that's already been destroyed, which are our options. So let's bring this one in. Again, we want to make sure it's a destructible actor, because windows can be destroyed. We're just going to bring that in like so. And we're going to snap it right into place like so. And you'll notice it snaps exactly where it needs to be, because we're using the grid snap. Everything fits together like Lego if you're on the right grid, so it's making your job extremely easy by following the grid. And it just snaps in there like that. And you're basically done with your wall piece at this point. Obviously, players aren't going to see this face here, because you'd have other walls coming off here, and you'd have a ceiling on top to stop people seeing the awful job here. And then it's worth noting that because this is one single mesh, this thing, when it takes damage, the whole thing will disappear. So let's say a grenade goes off by this window, right? You'd probably lose this mesh, the window would probably get destroyed, it would either disappear completely or be set to its broken state, so we can get rid of that. And then this tile fracture mesh would probably lose, you know, like half of it here, and it would probably down here as well. You just have like this pillar left. And it would leave it looking like this, which doesn't look very nice. So we actually want to texture this with something, because the default texture is just kind of plain, kind of creamy colour, which isn't particularly good. So once again, we're going to go back to the content browser. You can see we've got a textures thing here. Actually, we want materials. So, like I was talking about earlier, with you've got a static mesh, and then you've got the archetypes, which have the configured asset, which are what you want to use. It's the same way with texturing as well. So you've got textures, which are basically the unconfigured raw texture maps for stuff. So you can see we've got various textures for like doors and trims and stuff. You don't want to be using these, you want to be using materials, which are the configured version of the textures with like any special effects on them, all the kind of bump mapping and specular and all the PBR stuff. So you want to be using these. And unfortunately they're not separated into specific things. So let's have a look what we've got here. Looks like we've got like a kind of greyish kind of wall here. I mean, you can just kind of drag the texture onto the asset and see what it looks like. Not really too sure about that, so maybe that looks okay. Keep in mind that all the textures in the editor are generally slightly lower res than they are in the game, so that's another thing you want to look out for. We've got all kinds of choices here. That looks awful. So does that. I think this one probably looks best. Now, there's lots of different textures, and honestly texturing is something I haven't looked at too closely myself yet, so there's probably some more tricks and more textures you can use for this kind of stuff. It is possible to place different textures on different sides of the meshes. This is what Firaxis uses to texture the inside of the buildings here, so you can see you've got this like, I don't know, wallpaper or cheap painted wall, and then on the other side, which you can't really see because all these panels are in the way, you've got this texture. It's the same asset, but you've got different textures on each side. I still have no idea how to do this. It's something I really want to find out, but I haven't had any joy just yet. So yeah, keep in mind that texturing is still a bit of an unknown for me. Alright, what's left? All these things here are decals, which I like. This is something which I still haven't worked out in the editor, because all these decals are here. They all work in game, but in the editor they don't show. So these are things like bullet holes, posters on the walls, you know, like dirt and grime, you know, skid marks on the ground, stuff like that. And you can find, I think you can find them in the content browser by just typing decal. Oops. And there's absolutely tons of them, so looks like there's lots of decals there. Commercial floor decals, so if we load this, we want to use materials. Again, here you got the distinction between raw textures and configured materials, so keep that in mind as well. So we could just throw one of these on the floor just to see what it looks like, but again, it's kind of strange. Oops, I think I just actually textured the floor. That's my bad. Okay, so dragging a decal onto a floor is what you not want to do, because it will actually texture the floor with that, which is very bad. I think you can right click maybe. So if you select the asset here and then right click, maybe you get the option to here we are, add decal. So I'm just going to right click that, add a decal, and there we go. And yeah, for some reason they just don't show up. Like it's intersecting the floor, it's pointing in the right direction, but you don't see it. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's an editor setting I need to change, but it's kind of annoying. I haven't worked that one out yet. But that's how you create decals. And within the decal you can actually set what surfaces it should be projected onto. I'm not exactly sure where it is actually. Might be display, no? Movement.
So when I got the warehouse, it was not for me to build
decal render, here we go, I think.
And more than anything, I want to make it a world inside of the
Okay, maybe not. Alright, never mind. I'm sure I saw somewhere you can actually select what objects it should be applied onto. Options, parameters of the object. You can find what textures they use in the options. Parameters of the object, yeah, that works. I suppose you could, let's have a look here. So if we right click here, if we open this up, let's see, options, parameters. In fact, I do seem to remember this as well. Maybe it's on static mesh component. That might be under lighting. Yeah, I'm sure I've seen it somewhere, but can't find it right now. Oh, it's not source mapping. No, not today. XLAN84. Sorry. Under static mesh rendering. Okay. Rendering materials. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Wonderful. Yes, you can see here it's got gas station interior wall B on this side, and it's got slums underlay on the other side. Okay, cool. I've worked it out with help from chat. So wonderful. Yes, that's great. So if yeah, okay. I suppose you just have to work out which materials go on which wall and then carry on from there. But yeah, okay, great. So it's on the it's on the mesh actor rendering materials. Okay, I'll try and remember that. And go back and clean up some of my old parcels. So I mean, once you've got that all worked out, like, mostly it's the grid, like, working to the grid always is super important. I suppose I should talk about the 2D view here as well I've got. So you can go to view, I think it's view, where are we here? Grid, no. There's somewhere you can change the layout of the actual editor and you can have multiple views and all this kind of stuff. Don't know where it's gone. I haven't changed it for ages, so must be in views somewhere. Grid, auto save. Okay, viewport configuration. Here we go. So when you first load into the editor, it'll probably have 4 viewports, I think, is the default. I prefer one horizontal split, which is what I'm using currently, but you know, you can have a 2-2 split, a 1-2 split, all that kind of stuff. So it's worth playing around with that when you first load up the editor. And then you can configure each view by using the, where are we? Not that view, but you've got T here, viewport type. You can right click that and we can have that on a perspective view as well, which is not very useful, but we can change it to top, front or side. Top view is super useful because obviously this is a grid based game. You want to make sure you're on grid at all times, so you can zoom out and you can see your entire parcel from top view here, which is really useful. Now another thing which Firaxis has done to make things easier for you is if you go to the content browser, you'll notice there are other tabs at the top here, and one of them says levels. If we click on that, we can see we've got a couple of other levels which are streamed into our current level, and a lot of these are helpers. Wind can be completely ignored, it's just an actor which makes things blowing the wind. The lighting is the type of lighting which is shown in the parcel when you're in game mode. Obviously we've got daylighting because we want to see what we're doing, but we can change this to like night and, you know, everything else you could ever want. And we've got a thing called parcel check, which is currently not seen. You can see you've got the visibility button here, it's currently not shown. So we turn this on, you'll notice a couple of extra things have appeared, so we'll go and talk about that. So you can see we've now got roads and a skybox, and this is to check whether the edges of your parcel fit in with the rest of the game world when the map is generated. So you can see here we've got driveways which connect properly to the driveways on the actual parcel. We can see here that the actual pavement connects to the pavement that the rest of the map will be using. Again, we've got another driveway here which connects in a visually pleasing way to the rest of the map. So basically you can check that everything fits where it should be. And we've got our XCOM level volume, which is, I can't select it, but this giant pink box is the absolute boundary of your content. You can't go outside of it. You'll get errors if you do so. So don't do that. But the main thing it gives you is a grid in the 2D view down here. If I make it bigger so you can see it, you can see we've now got a grid in the 2D view, and this grid is the exact same size as the in-game grid, so it makes it so much easier to kind of move your assets around and make sure that you're on the XCOM 2 playable grid. And you can still select stuff in this view and, you know, move it around, like this car. You can see it snaps to the half grid because we're on 48 grid movement. If we set the grid to 96 down here, it'll move entire grid squares, which, you know, can be useful as well. I like the slightly more granular control with 48, even though you never actually leave an asset half over a grid like this. But it just makes it easier to like move stuff around, I find. But you know, you might not like that, so do whatever you like. And all the Firaxis parcels have this helper grid for all the different sizes, so I recommend turning it on, because it really helps you make sure that you're on grid, because off grid is like the worst thing you can do in this game. You never want to do it. Even stuff like all these vents and things like that up on the top of the roof, it's all on grid. I can't actually see what I've selected in 2D view, which is kind of annoying. There we go. So you can see here, all these vents on top here, you can see they're all exactly matched to the grid as well, so you can take cover behind it on all the sides, you can move around it with your soldiers. It's not just there for detail, it's actually fits in with the whole grid system as well, which is the most important thing. Another thing we haven't looked at is ladders. So we've got this drain pipe here which soldiers can climb up and down. Again, these are mostly pre-configured, so again we can right click on this, whoops, and find it in the content browser, Control B, or right click and click it there. Then when we open up the content browser, we've got our static mesh of the pipe. Now, again, remember what I said earlier, we don't want to be using the unset up assets, so we want to right click on slums ladders, fully load it, and then go to the archetypes folder, and you can see we've got all our ladders in the correct sizes and already set up for us. So all we have to do is drag it into the game world, like so. Make sure it's the XCOM ladder entity, which it is. And then we can just configure it to, let's say we want it facing this way so that it connects to the wall, and boom. You can see because we're on grid, it will snap directly to exactly where the current one is. And that's how you do ladders. They come pre-built in the exact sizes you'll need, so there's a 256 one, there's a 512 one which will go up to the 3rd floor. The main thing with ladders is you just want to make sure they're in the centre of the tile here, so this is where the 48 grid unit comes in handy, because you don't want them in between two grid units like this. You want them in the centre of a grid unit against the wall like that. And it will work perfectly in game. Once again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. If you've been working in the XCOM 2 editor and you're having problems with something, you know, leave a question in chat and I'll try and answer it. What else have we got here? We've got some other volumes here. So we've got a dummy volume. This is interesting. Let's find out what this does. So dummy volumes can be used for all sorts of stuff. You just have to work out what is referencing them to actually see what. Okay, here we are. It's probably this. Yeah, here we go. So this object I've selected up here is a XCOM spawn restrictor, and what this does is you can create volumes on your level, and then you can set what cannot spawn there. So you can see here we've got civilians restricted. So all these dummy volumes and XCOM floor volumes, when the map generates in game, civilians cannot be placed on here. So you can imagine why this is here, because you wouldn't want a civilian spawning on top of this awning. So they've created a volume here and attached it to this entity to stop civilians spawning on top of these awnings. You can see there's one on every single awning, like so, to stop civilians spawning out here, because it would make no sense whatsoever. And you can see they've also attached XCOM floor volumes to them as well, so there's 3 floor volumes assigned to this as well. If we go to find out what ones these are, find object in content browser. Okay, so we've got XCOM floor volume 0. I'm guessing that'll be the roof of one of these things. Yeah, so XCOM floor volume 0 is the roof of the building. So Firaxis decided they didn't want civilians spawning on the roof of this building, so they're using the floor volume to influence the spawn restrictor as well. And you can use this to restrict civilians, advent and aliens. And you can even restrict the AI pathing as well, so even once the map is generated, you know, advent, civilians or aliens will not be able to enter this volume even while the game is live. Which can be useful in some situations. You wouldn't want that here though, because no one would ever jump up onto the roof here, and you could just set up your squad here and be fine. Which would be pretty bad. So that's the basic info to volumes. Like, there's lots of different volumes you can create. I should probably show creating them, because it uses a completely different system which we haven't looked at yet. So you can see here on the side panel here, you've got all these shapes. Now this is a throwback to the original Unreal Engine, where everything in the entire map was built with primitive shapes like this, but in XCOM 2 we don't use this at all, apart from creating volumes. So if I right click on the cube here, you can set the dimensions. So we'll just use the default here, so we'll hit build. Now we've got to find the builder brush. Here we are. So this red cube here, you might not be able to see it. Select it here. So this red cube is the current builder brush, which means when we build a volume it will be this size. Okay, so let's say we want, let's say we want to stop the advent from rummaging in this bin here. We can bring the volume down, make sure it's snapped correctly to the floor, which it currently is not. Yeah, so you can see with the grid snap we've got currently, it's not snapping to the floor. So what we want to do, we could just make the grid snap lower, but we're actually going to go into geometry edit mode and change the shape from there, because it's another system which you probably want to know about. So we can hit the the geometry mode, where my mouse cursor is right now on the side. Next to the camera icon we've got geometry mode. You hit that and you can see some of the view here has changed, and we can now select the vertexes on this shape. So what you want to probably do here is you can hold control and select multiple. So we're going to select all the verts on the bottom, and then we can move them around. Well, if I can select the handle, there we go. So you can move them around to change the shape of this. If you've ever used, like, you know, editors for Half-Life or any of the Quake games, this probably seems super familiar, and it's exactly what you'd expect. But it looks like we are going to have to change the grid snap anyway to get this to hit the floor, so let's go to 4. It can be quite hard to see where exactly you are. This is like some time where you might actually want to go to the side view or the front view to see exactly where your stuff is. It looks like we're slightly below the ground here, so let's go back up to ground level. There we go. That can sometimes be quite difficult to see, so... Alright. Now I want to select all the top verts. And remember what I said, that floors are always 256 units. So we've actually got a grid snap for 256 here, so we're going to turn that on. And you can see that when you move the asset, it will snap 256 units. Which isn't quite useful because we actually create the wrong... I should have just created the cube 256 in every direction and it would have fit perfectly. But hey ho, so we're going to bring this down. This isn't going to be exact, this is actually a terrible way to do it. In fact, I'm not going to teach you bad habits, so we're just going to start again. We're going to start again. So we're going to get our cube. Oh, it was 256 in every direction. Wow, I'm really screwing this up today, aren't I? This autosave is really annoying. Oh, I probably need to, maybe I need to just snap it to the grid. I don't normally make many cubes like this, I normally just copy something that's already in the map, which is probably I'm having so much trouble. Let's see, transform, snap origin to grid. Okay, there we go. That's what we wanted. There we go, so now we're snapped exactly in the right position on grid. Perfect. Let's go back to the top view to see where we are. There we go. So yeah, of course the 256 isn't a multiple of 96, which is why the sides aren't quite in the right place, but we can use... If you hold Control and Alt, and you see I'm dragging a box in the 2D view, it will select all the verts in that 2D view, which we've done now. And we can bring this out to fill the exact space we need. So again, Control and Alt, and we can do this, do that. Okay, now we're going to select these two at the top, and we're going to bring it down. And I'm referencing this on the grid that I can see in the 2D view. I'm not referencing it based on geometry, I'm going via the grid, which is generally what you always want to do. And let's just select these and bring them in. That. Okay, so we've got our cube, it's on the grid and it's covering the bin on the side here. So what I want to do now is, you've got this volumes thing, and again in the side menu with all the icons, you've got a volumes thing in blue. You want to right click this, and you see you've got all these different volumes that you can use. There's a lot of these which we're going to go through, but for right now we just want dummy volume. And we'll left click that, and there we go. So now when we move our builder kit out the way, you can see we've got our dummy right here. And we can create more, we can go and create more duplicates all over the place for this if we want, but we don't really need to, so we can just leave that there for now. This is, you can't delete this, like this is just like an imaginary box to show you what you're going to create when you create a shape. So it's safe to just leave it inside the map because it won't actually do anything at gameplay time. So we've got a dummy volume. So now we can select the spawn restrictor up here, and you can see we've got all these already listed. So we can use the green plus sign on the volume, hit that, and you can see we've now got a new blank entry down here which we want to put a new dummy into. Now to actually select our dummy, what we want to do is, you can see the lock icon up here, the padlock. We want to turn that on so that it's locked, and that means that it's going to keep the spawn restrictor actor selected even when we select other stuff in the map. And the reason we want to do this is because we want to select our dummy volume, click in here, and then click the green arrow here, which if you leave the tooltip up, it says use selected object in content browser. So we want to hit this, and you can see it's added our dummy volume 8, which we've got selected into the thing here, which means that now our new volume will be, no civilians will be, you know, spawned in this area either, which isn't necessary. I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes. So you can create these volumes all over the map to stop civilians or advent or aliens spawning wherever you don't want them. That's how that system works. Of course, I'm not going to be saving any of this, so it doesn't really matter if I get crazy and blow everything up. I'm going to run now, but thank you so much for this. It's been fascinating and useful. Cool! That's what I want. Yeah, I hope it helps. I will be putting the video on demand for this up on YouTube, so if you did miss some of it, I'll put a link up. But yeah, I'm glad it's helpful. Again, if anyone has questions, feel free to ask in the chat. Quite happy to make demonstrations and answer anything like that. Alright, so that's one parcel. Let's load up a different one and see if we've got any new stuff in it that we can look at. So that was a slums parcel. Let's go back. Let's look at the small town. Medium house. Let's load this up. And we don't want to save that because, yeah. Let's load this up. So again, these are parcels, which are the pieces of content which can be put into a map when it generates. It's taking a while to load. So once again, we get all kinds of warnings and errors, but again, these are Firaxis stock parcels, so any of these warnings and errors you're seeing are stuff that Firaxis deems shippable. So don't worry about it too much. Like, so we've got here, now this is a red error, but all it is fake decal has V path colliding set to true, which I'm not too familiar with Unreal Engine errors like this, but it sounds like a decal actor has got collision. But because decal actors are generally right up against walls, it's probably not going to be a problem. And these warnings are just like, decal does not have overlapping actors, all this other stuff, like, do not worry about it. If it loads into the game and works in the stock game, then it's not. So you can see here we've got our content. If we go back to the level tab in the content browser, and we turn off the parcel check for small town, turn that off. This is the raw parcel. So this is what the game will load into your environment when it gets selected for a small town set. I'm trying to see if there's anything new here we can look at. Not really. Got some trees. Oh, is this a door that opens and closes? Because that'll be interesting. Yeah, it is. It's a door. Okay, so this will be interesting. So again, right-click it, find in content browser. It'll find this door. Go back to content browser. Huh, didn't go to it. Interesting. Try again. Nope. Okay, that's interesting. Normally this works. It's like the first time it hasn't worked. Let's go door. Garage door, industrial, maybe it's in here. Let's fully load this package. Yeah, we can go to the archetypes. Okay. Okay, so this isn't the actual door itself, it's probably this bit, the side. Yeah, it is. So that's not actually what we want. Garage doors and then maybe? It's strange that it doesn't find it in the content browser. That's really messed me up, that has. City centre garage doors, slums, home garage door, maybe this is it. No, I'm not seeing any things we can actually drag into the world here. Huh. That's really weird. Let's just create a new door to go with it. Hello Hobbs, what's up? We are making parcels for XCOM 2. Once again, for anyone new in chat, feel free to ask any questions about editing maps for XCOM 2. Right now we're going to make a door for this this is really funny, like I've never had the trouble actually finding an asset in the content browser before, so it's a bit of a shame that it happens when I'm streaming. Doors. Let's just load this. This seems to be just a drop box for all the doors. Let's see. Residential doors, commercial doors. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make, never mind that I can't find the right door for this, but the point I'm trying to make is that doors are called XCOM interactive level actors. And you can see here in the archetypes, these are all, we've got destructible actors for the frames for the doors. So we want one of those. Let's just throw that in there. Because once again, destructible actors actually get destroyed when they take damage, whereas if it's just a level actor, it won't get destroyed. And then we can drag the interactive level actor out as well. Oh hey, it's a double door, okay. Interesting, so I actually want this door frame. Let's get rid of this one. So we can rotate this. Again, it's spacebar to change the gizmo. Oh, we're actually on a really low grid as well, so let's go back to 48, which is half a grid square. And if you drag something out into the game world on a low grid, it'll still be on that low grid, even though you can only move in increments of 48 now. So what you want to do is right click it, go to, where are we, not that, I want to go to transform and snap origin to grid, which will put the object back on the 48 grid squares as well. So now it snaps directly with the wall, which it didn't before. It just moves it into the correct position. So I'm going to keep it out here so we can see what we're doing. And then with the door as well, it probably doesn't fit exactly in, so you can see here it sticks out a bit to the side and the front because I moved it into the game world on the 8 grid. So again, we can right click it, transform, snap origin to grid, or control end if you're into shortcuts, and you can see now it snaps exactly into place in the door frame, which is what we want. Like so. And that is basically all you have to do for doors. Like, they all come pre-configured. There's some stuff here you can change, but I'd recommend against it because once again they're pre-configured. So in game, this will now be a door that when your soldiers are next to it, they can interact with it and it'll open and close, and, you know, work exactly how you'd expect. But again, the main point is just always be on grid. Always, always, always be on the grid. So that's doors. Again, I'm sure there's a single door version of this as well. Let's see. Yeah, look, so we got the double and the single version of it. So we can drag the single door out as well, and it will just be like so. I designed maps for the original UFO defense, so I'm curious about how to do it for XCOM 2. Oh cool! Old school, I like it. I mainly make maps for the original Quake, which was like 1996, so I certainly respect the old school level designers, so yeah, nice one. But I mean, it's still all on the grid. I turned off the parcel check, so you can't see the grid right now. If I go back to the content browser, go back to levels, turn back on the parcel checker, and you can now see the grid in the 2D view again. So if I just bring this up, there you go. And once again, it's a super useful tool to make sure that everything you're building is on grid. So you can see here the house, all the meshes which make up the house are all on grid along the sides here. All the squares flow properly through it. All the doors are exactly aligned on the entrance and exit of a grid square. It's all connected properly. Okay, I suppose another thing worth mentioning is that all the maps in XCOM 2, as you're no doubt aware, have 3 different biomes that they can generate in. So you've got the temperate, the arid, and the snow, whatever it's called, tundra. And there are various different props that will appear depending on which biome you're in. And you can add special assets to each type. And this is super easy. You can see here that there's snow and icicles on the top of the house here, but we're currently in a temperate environment now. This only happens in the editor, right? So if I right click on this and find in content browser, you can see here, again we've got our meshes, we want to go up to the archetypes. We've got tundra icicles, tundra bushes. So if we just type in tundra into the packages, we can now find all the special. Got tundra foliage, tundra rocks, but we want icicles, so let's fully load this package, see what we've got in here. And once again, we don't want to be loading static meshes. They've got the blue tint on them in the content browser, so if it's got a blue tint and it's called static mesh, that's not what you want. They're unconfigured assets. You want the XCOM destructible actor for things like icicles. If you're making a snow pile, you probably just want a level actor. So yeah, let's see here, archetypes. So we can just drag these onto the side of the building, like so. And the game is actually very clever about when to display these, so you can configure them in the editor and it will show them all at once. Like this is one of those assets where you probably want to turn off the grid, because it's actually relies very a lot on positioning, so we're going to turn off the grid just for this special case, and we're going to move it. Oh, I actually didn't turn off the grid, there we go. So we're going to move it up, and we're going to slot it onto the side of the house here, like so. Like that. There we go, we've got our new icicle, and we can actually save it. We don't need to do anything special. The game knows that this is a tundra only asset, and it will remove it from the level if we're in a temperate or arid climate. And you'll notice here that basically build all your content in the temperate climate. So you've got grass on the floor, you've got, you know, green and brown on the floors, you've got these standard kind of temperate trees, and it'll all be swapped out for special assets depending on the biome. So you don't actually have to do anything at all, apart from just add specific assets for, you know, a specific type of biome, which is generally just the tundra one, for like icicles and snow piles. That's pretty much all you have to do, just add icicles where they would make sense. And the game takes care of everything else. It'll swap out all the textures and all the assets to their regional variants, which is super cool. It saves you a lot of time. How am I moving the camera? Okay, so the camera is super easy. It's basically WSAD, and you have to right click inside the view with the mouse. You see the cursor disappears, and then you can just move the mouse to look around, and WSAD to move the camera around. Essentially just like flying around in a lot of games, you know, so you can just move it all over the place. I think there's an up and down as well, but I'm not sure what it is, so I'm just going to do that. You can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out as well. It's not particularly useful, but it's there. Not sure what the middle mouse does, but apparently it does nothing, so never mind. Okay, so you can hold the left and right buttons to move up and down on the Z axis, which is kind of useful. But yeah, so biomes is just basically, do not worry about it, just add some icicles for the snow biome. And stuff like all this stuff, like all this temperate bushes will be replaced for you, which is amazing. I suppose another thing we haven't talked about yet is like objectives and special effects and stuff. So this is a sound, obviously this is going to be like the sound of like a TV crackling. Probably can't hear it. Even I can't hear it, and I've got headphones on, so. But yeah, you can place sounds around and then you can just have a look at the audio component. And again, just like with everything else in here, we can probably find sounds, probably search for sound or sound effects, sound banks. Okay, so yeah, you've got sounds for every sound in the game here, so you can just look for what you want. Let's see, sound effects. Let's load it. So we could probably just select this and replace the sound here with what we've got and have it make an alien sound on loop, which should be really weird, but that's how it works. Hey Kingster64, what's up? This actor here is a particle effect. So you can open it up and you can see we've got dust motes. Now these are generally used indoors to give a bit of texture to indoor environments. So if I hit G to go into game mode, I might not be able to see them because they're generally pretty hard to spot. I'm trying to see if I can find a camera angle where you can see them against the wall. But you can see like these little dust motes here, you can see them kind of floating upwards from the green into the brown, like here as well. Over here there's one there going up. It's a very subtle effect, but it just gives indoor areas, you know, a little bit of atmosphere. So if you've got an indoor area, you probably want to have a look at adding some dust mote. There's various different particles you can use for that, and once again you can search for particles in the content browser, or I guess FX maybe? FX particle, or FX maybe like a dust? Maybe just dust? No? Okay. Not sure what you'd search for to find these. Atmospherics. Particle system FX_atmospherics. Okay, so let's have a look for that. Yeah, there you go. So FX atmospherics. We can fully load this. Thank you for the follow, Kingster62. That's very kind of you. So you can see we've got all these materials. We actually want particle systems, which are these things here. So we've got smoke, we've got dust for the Avenger, dust motes, area A, which is what we're currently using. So now we can just take one of these and literally drag it into the environment just like everything else. So we can take smoke, just drag it in, let go, and boom, we've got smoke in our house. Why you'd want smoke in your house, I don't know, but it looks kind of cool. Kills the frame rate when you go into it, but you know, we'll live with it. So yeah, that's particle systems. I just deleted something, I don't know what it was, but never mind. Let's get rid of that. Volumetric light interior. So again, we can drag that in. I'm guessing you'd want to use this next to a window to have like light shining in through the window, but I don't actually see anything for that one. Oh yeah, it's very subtle. It's like a plane. Yeah, it's not exactly what I was expecting, so let's get rid of it. So there's all kinds of stuff here, and there's other things you can search for as well. We've got atmospherics, environmental. So this is probably like more outdoor stuff maybe. It looks like exactly the same stuff actually, so don't know what's going on there. These are called particle systems, and these ones are called emitters, so I'm not really sure what the difference is. This is one of those things with Unreal Engine I'm not quite sure about. See if it's the same. Okay, yeah, these are definitely more like something for the entire environment. Yeah, it's covered the entire parcel with green. Green smog. Cool. Wow. So that's particle systems, and again you can just search through the content browser and drag and drop stuff as you find it. You probably just search for FX underscore and get a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, Advent Security, Advent Tower, Abduction Pods. So yeah, so like this is all the special effects of the entire game. You can just kind of repurpose it to do whatever you like with it. Effects Avatar. Oh. Let's try not to go for that. Fire, smoke. Let's have a look in here. So we've got more particle systems. Okay, it looks like particle systems are kind of local special effects, whereas emitters cover a giant area. That seems to be the distinction. So we've got a particle system for fire. Just drag that in, and we just set up bloody house on fire. That's great. That's well done. Yep. So basically that's how that works, and you can obviously move. I don't know if it scales, but oh, you can rotate it as well, so you can have like a fire on the side, which makes no sense. Oh, and you can scale the effect as well, so that's we can make it bigger. Yeah. So yeah, the particle systems are pretty cool, actually. Now another thing we've got here is actual objectives. So this is when the random level generator is looking through all the different parcels for the small town set, as that's what we're in here. Let's say you've rolled a... let's see what objectives we've got in here. Objective spawn possibility. Yeah. So let's say we've got a hack mission, right? So the random mission generator is going to look through all the parcels for the small town set that can fit in a medium slot, as this is a medium parcel, and it's going to say, okay, which one of you medium parcels has got a hack objective in it? And this one's going to appear in that list because it's actually got two. It's got a laptop on the bed here, and it's got a kind of computer PC thing on the thing here. So this is going to be added to that list as a potential objective parcel. And this is because we've added these objective. So this is a hack objective, so we can hack this laptop. We've got another objective over here which looks like that's another hack objective, so we've just got two in the same area. We've got I'm not actually sure what this one is. Objective spawn possibility 5. It looks like it could be like a destroy alien relay or something like that. Yeah, interesting. Oh, I see. This, okay, how these ones work is you put the actor in the map here. Can I find this in content browser? I'm pretty sure I can. That's an actor, isn't it? Yeah, so. Objective spawn possibility. Right, so if you search in the actor list, so I haven't actually looked at this window yet, but basically this is a list of all the actors in the game. So if we get rid of the search, we've got all our XCOM alien pods, we've got XCOM parcels, which is the actor that you use when you're making plots, rain volumes, reinforcement spawns, like everything that's added to the game. So you can actually search this for spawn pos, because that's the type of actor we want. We can click it here and just drag it in. Boom. It's actually not the same, so maybe that's not how you do this. I haven't actually used the actor window much at all, so some actors you can just drag straight in and they work, but apparently this one is not one of those, so don't do that. But this actor, what it does, it replaces a mesh in the map with the objective, if that objective is the active one. So you can see here, if I double click on this, we've got actors to swap highlighted here, and it's got this actor in the world will be deleted and the objective actor will be spawned in its place. Now this actor is the boxes here, so you can see it's got XCOM Destructible Actor 178. If we click on here, the name of this is XCOM Destructible Actor 178, so we know that if this parcel is selected for a relay, then these boxes will disappear and a relay will appear in its place. So that's how that objective works. And with the laptops, I believe these ones you can find in the content browser. I think these are literally drag and drop objectives. Yeah, so you've got mission archetypes. Let's fully load this. And you see we've got all the... so let's see here, where's the protect device? Oh, excuse me. Hack workstation. And then you've got all these various blueprints that are already set up for you. So we've got a laptop, we've got a table with some stuff on it, we've got a laptop on a table. So if we wanted to add yet another hack objective to this, we could add an outside one just for a laugh. We could just grab this and plonk it down right here. And boom, we've got ourselves a laptop outside, and this is yet another possible spawn location for the objective when you load this tile and it's looking for that objective. So that is how that works. Now you also have to configure these in the setup files scripts in ModBuddy. I suppose I could show you that now because that's kind of important as well. But that is how you actually set up the objective types. Oh hey, hey Aaron, how's it going? Yeah, I've been learning Unreal 3 along with XCOM 2. I'm still quite rusty at the editor, but getting there. Okay, so we've got our parcel, we've got our objectives set up in it, like so. So we've got a protect device, we've got a protect relay, we've got a hack objective, we've got a couple of hack objectives. But how do we tell the game that these are here and that they can be used? We need to go back to ModBuddy for this and do some scripting. In fact, I'm going to load one of my custom parcels just so I can show you the scripting for it. So we're going to go back to parcels. We're going to go to, let's see here, what can I use? Wilderness. Let's load up Advent landing pad 01_DAS. Yeah, it's a great game. I haven't put it down since it came out. It's very, very good. And the mob tools are frankly incredible compared to a lot of the other stuff out there, so it's very good. Okay, so this is my modified landing pad parcel. You can see I removed the dropship and added like a stack of crates, because that's what level designers do. They add crates to all the maps, all the time, all day. So that's what I did here. But we've got some objectives here. We've got a destroy objective type here. We've got a recovery objective here, so you can recover this crate and get some items and stuff. But we want to tell the game that these objectives are here and that this tile can be selected for use for this particular objective. So we need to go back to ModBuddy, and we've got XCOM parcels.ini here. We're going to load up. We've actually already got it open here, and you can copy this from my mod. You can copy this from the actual game. If we go back to my game folder, hang on a second. Desktop, XCOM 2 SDK. You can go into XCOM game. Where are we? Content, XCOM 2, maps. Oh, where is it? I think it's in scripts actually. XCOM 2, content. No. Oh god, I've lost it. Quick access. I've got it here. Default parcels, here we are. Open file location. Alright, so you want to go into XCOM2 _ XCOM2 SDK, XCOM game and config. And there's a file in here called default parcels.ini. You can open this, and this is all the scripts for all the parcel content in the default game. So you can just copy what you need from here into your own XCOM parcels.ini inside your mod, which is basically what I did when I first started out. I made some small variations of the Firaxis parcels and then just copied their exact entries from here into my own config. So what we're going to do is find my dropship parcel here. Okay, you can see here I've actually commented them so they're easier to find. So we've got Advent Landing Pad with supply crate stacks instead of a dropship, which is exactly what we've got open in the editor right now. And you can see we're declaring the parcel definitions here. So we've got map name, and this is the file name of the parcel, which you can see matches exactly the file name in the editor. We've got md underscore advent landing pad underscore daz underscore 01, so that it can find this particular asset when it's required. And then we need to declare the size of the parcel, which is medium because it's 16 by 32 units. So as you see, if I zoom out and I turn off the see levels, turn off the parcel checker, boom. So you can see it's 16 wide, 32 long, which is the medium parcel size in the game. You cannot change that. You have to be that size if you're a medium. So we have to declare it as a medium. And then we've got to declare what environments we want this to appear in. So we've got plot types and wilderness. This is because the original Firaxis parcel was a wilderness tile, so I just copied that, but we could add more declarations in here saying we want it to spawn in, you know, slums, or we want it to spawn in city centre, all the other, you know, tile types from the game. But I just left it as wilderness for this. And then the zone types is you can further separate out medium parcel types into various kind of subcategories, if you want to call it that. So this is set as troop transport because obviously the original tile had a dropship in it. This is so that if you've got multiple medium parcels in your plot, it doesn't choose 2 troop transport parcels, you know, at once. So that would be a bit strange. I mean, you could do that, there's nothing wrong with it, but obviously Firaxis didn't want to do that, so they managed to divide down the medium parcels even more. And you can name this whatever you want, but just keep in mind that if you change these outside of what Firaxis have done, then your parcel won't spawn in any of their plots, because they won't have your tag in it. And then we've got which way the parcel faces, which is south. And then we've got the objective tags, which is what I wanted to talk about. So you see objective tags, we've got supply line raid. So this means that if you're on a supply raid mission, which are generated, you know, as you play through the game, you can go and raid a place for supplies to get, you know, what was it? It's literally supplies, and it's not intel, it's like you can get some like various materials, I think. So if a supply line raid mission is generated, it knows that it can use this plot for it because we've declared it here. And then we've got our other objective is recover FD. I forget what FD stands for, but it's basically, you know, recovery mission. You can go in and recover an object, and I think that is probably this objective, but I forget. So that is how that works. So you need to declare what objectives are in your parcel, and if you do this incorrectly and say I marked this down for a, I don't know, hack the laptop, so I added a hack laptop declaration into the mod buddy for this tile, the game would think that I could generate this tile for it, but it wouldn't find a hackable objective in here, and it would probably crash or come up with some error. That'd be very, very bad, so do make sure you're adding the right declarations. Again, this is all covered in the documentation that comes with the game. Once again, if I go back to my XCOM 2, let's see, quick start, open file location. Okay, so in the XCOM 2 SDK documentation folder, if you go into content, you can open XCOM 2 level design PDF, and all this stuff is explained in detail there, and I recommend that everyone reads it because it's very important that you get the scripting correct, otherwise all kinds of horrible things can and will happen. Okay. Oh, this is another interesting icon that we haven't looked at yet. So this, as you might notice, it's got a turret icon on it. And some of you may have been wondering how turrets are spawned in XCOM 2, and they're actually using this icon here. So you can see we've got XCOM turret selector, which is this this actor here, and we've got turret options. You can add to this using the green plus sign here. And basically what you're doing is, it works the same as the other objective. It replaces an asset on the tile with a turret. So you can see here we've got two possible options for turrets here, and I can tell you right now what they are. They are this and this. So basically, and you can see we've got a spawn weight as well, which is, I'm not exactly sure how this weighting system works, because I think if you set the weight to 1, it might guarantee that it spawns a turret in one of these locations. And if you set it lower, there's just a lower and lower chance that a turret will spawn. It's probably a bit more complex than that, but that's currently what I've got for it. So let's say we set this to 1, so every time this tile generates, there will always be a turret either here, replacing this radar, or here, replacing this radar. And you can replace pretty much any asset you like with a turret spawn position. So that is how you do turrets. You probably noticed that turrets are always in a kind of pre-planned place, but they're never always in the same place, so that's how that system works. Catch you later, Daz. Yeah, see you later, Kingster. Really loved XCOM Apocalypse. I haven't played that one. Good to see some more dev work from it. Yeah, I'm getting back into it. I took a long break. I haven't done much level design for a long time, but when XCOM came out, I was like, right, we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We can learn Unreal Engine 3, and we can create some cool stuff for XCOM as well. So yeah, that is how you set up turrets. Again, this is the XCOM turret selector, and again, you're just populating these entries the same way that you populated everything else that we've done before. So that is how that works. Trying to think if there's something else in here that we haven't looked at yet. I suppose it is worth noticing that the laser fences here are blueprints. So if we find these in the content browser, let's fully load this just to make sure we've got everything. So you can see here we've got an Advent checkpoint folder, and if we click on it, we get all kinds of stuff related to Advent roadblocks and stuff. We've got some archetypes, which again, these are all the basic building components, but because this is a large structure, they've actually made some blueprints for us, which you can see here. So we can actually just throw down an Advent pillbox, like so. I mean, it looks ridiculous there, but the point is that it's super easy to do, and then you can just rotate it into place. Put it wherever you like. But turn the grid snap back on before you do that. That's that, and then these are all just blueprints as well, just rotated into position. So it's actually super easy to make the fortifications, because they're all just pre-configured assets that you can just throw down. So if I wanted to expand this wall some more, I could just add another corner unit here. They've not got the wall section underneath. No, they don't. Ah, here we go. Okay, so you have to add the wall section separate, but there it is. So you can just add the wall section to the ground like so. Let's get rid of this. Ah, that's interesting. Here we've got the checkpoints, blueprints. Yeah, we just want the... Okay, that's a cap. That's the end. Okay, so we just want this one. There we go. Looks like they're not quite snapping into place the way they should. is a bit odd. This is me saying how easy it was, and actually it's apparently not that easy. Maybe I've just got the wrong size here, that's probably what's happened. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, I think I put a cap in, that was probably a mistake, we probably want well, this was a lot easier when I made it for my raised landing pad. I never had this problem. Everything just snapped together really nicely. Interesting. Oh, it's got, here we are. Okay, my mistake. It's got proper fence archetypes for everything, so yeah, that's probably what I was doing wrong. So we want one of these, and then one of these should hopefully just fit onto it. Yeah, there you go. You probably just want to finagle this a little bit to get it to slot in correctly. So you have to drop the grid down a little bit, so like grid 4 and just... Actually, we're going to need a grid 2 for this. There you go. And now we can go back up to grid 48 for the half grid. And we can just select both. Like so. And then we can just hold Alt and drag it. And you can just create a wall like so. And these will be configured so that in-game, you know, your soldiers can jump through them and they'll go wibbly wobbly. Which is cool. What's the snake sign? That is this is the spawn restrictor. So this is a actor which tells the game where you cannot place like enemies or civilians or anything like that when the map is generated. So I think this one's just stopping them from. It's using building volume 1. So. Oh, I see. So I think this is one configured for civilians. Yeah. So you can see here we've got civilians restricted, and it's set to building volume 1, which is the volume surrounding this advent structure, because it wouldn't make much sense lore-wise for civilians to be inside this heavily fortified advent base. So we're using this to stop civilians spawning in there. And I think this is a blueprint actually. This entire thing is. Yeah, it is. So this blueprint of the Combine Tower has its own spawn restrictor in it as well to stop civilians spawning on the roof and stuff like that. You always want to use these where it makes sense. Like generally, you don't want civilians inside advent buildings because it just doesn't make any sense at all. And things like civilians on top of third-story buildings and stuff like that, you can mess around with a lot of stuff to restrict where stuff can be. A lot of this advent stuff is blueprints as well. So like this is a blueprint. If I find this in the content browser. Oh, it's found that. Okay, it looks like I didn't actually use the blueprint for this as well, so that's my bad. I think there is like an advent floodlight. Yeah, here we are. So generally, before you go building something you've seen in the game for yourself, check if there is a blueprint for it. So you can see we've got the archetype here, but we actually want the blueprint because it comes with all the lighting and lens flares and everything pre-configured. In fact, it's even got a prefab, which is probably what we want. So we can just drag this in and boom. We've got ourselves a prefabricated light with all the lighting and lens flares and everything already done for us. We can just move it wherever we want. Which is super cool. So always check for that stuff. Like if you've seen something in the base game, there's a very, very good chance that there's either a blueprint or a prefab for it. Because Firaxis are pretty cool like that. They've done a great job with this SDK. Advent are quite a lot like the Combine. Yeah, they are. We called it the Combine Tower, did I? There's some very definite similarities there for sure. So that's okay. So all this time we've been looking at parcels, which is like, I think that's probably the most interesting piece of content. Which, you know, people that are interested in creating maps for XCOM 2, probably parcels are the most interesting thing to start with. Also, some of the most complex, but you know, you get to create your own stuff in it, so it's pretty cool. Let's look at some other stuff. Let's look at a plot, because a lot of this stuff will start making probably a lot more sense when we look at plots. So let's open up some of these. Let's load up the Slums Overpass plot, because it's probably one that everyone remembers. So let's open up the Medium Objective Overpass plot. Don't save that. Okay, so as I was talking about at the very beginning of the stream, the plots are the kind of high-level overview of a procedurally generated map in XCOM. So let's just zoom the hell out here. Now you're probably thinking, oh god, what the bloody hell is this? But hopefully it'll start to make sense very, very quickly. This is all using proxy geometry, so you're not going to see any of the high-res details that are actually in the map, but this is the overpass in the slums. Obviously it looks a lot nicer in game, but this is just a proxy geometry piece for it. So if you imagine in game, there'd be the struts coming down here with the ladders on, you'd have all like the shanty town underneath it and everything like that. All these kind of transparent buildings around the side here are called periphery buildings, and these are outside of the level volume but just fill in the gaps around the map. And these road pieces are again just proxy geometry for the actual high-res roads that appear in the game. And this is a medium parcel. So you notice it's the same size, we've got 16 width, 32 length, but it's just the proxy geometry. So in this space any medium parcel can spawn, but it's clamped down by a few parameters. So we've got our medium parcel here. Now you can see here we've got the zone type is set to commercial, which means that any medium parcel with the tag of commercial can spawn here in the slums set, because this is a slums map. So yeah, you got the slums set, it will look down into that for medium parcels, it will find all the medium parcels, then it will look into those and say, I need one with a commercial tag, and there's like 4 or 5 different ones it can choose from there. Now you're probably noticing there's some arrows and shit here as well. So this is telling the parcel which way it can face when it's generated in the map. So this here we can make it face north and east as well if we like. So now we've got arrows facing all directions, but we don't want that. Oh god, which ones was it? There we go. Now we want it facing this way because we've got road connections here, and this is where the next piece comes into play. You'll notice we've got some other proxy geometry here for connections to the road. And we want these, see we've got entrance south 1, south 2 and west 1, and these match up to exactly where you'd expect. And when you tick these proxy geometry pieces will be attached to the parcel, and these are driveways. Excuse me. So you notice when you play an XCOM 2 level, all the pieces of content are connected to roads by driveways. And all these driveways are always in the same place around every parcel. You've got 2 on the sides, and 2 on every side, sorry, but this is a medium parcel, so you've only got 1 in the centre. But on the large parcels, you'll have 2 on every side, and you can configure which ones are active, so the level knows where it can place driveways when it loads the content into the game. So this is basically how you create a high-level map in XCOM. All these pieces, you want to set your grid to 96, because that is the grid size of the game. And you can see all these road pieces just kind of snap together like Lego. So you can create a road network very, very easily. We've got our overpass in the middle, which we're not going to move because it will just do crazy things. We've got our roads here. You'll notice there's a gap underneath here, and this is because the PCPs, which are another piece of content we'll talk about in a minute, will generate all the ground below the overpass automatically, and even the roads here as well. But that is basically how it works. You notice we've got some just a random piece of pavement here. Again, here this is another piece of content. It's not a parcel, it's a PCP, and we've got the PCP type set to sidewalk and the turn type set to sidewalk as well, which means that in game it will generate a sidewalk here instead of a parcel or a road or anything else. So again, we've got another piece of proxy geometry there for everything. Is there any specific AI considerations you need to make when designing, like patrol positions? Everything, all the patrols are generated automatically. The only thing you can do is set the spawn position for starting a map, which we'll talk about in a minute here, and obviously setting the restrictions within all the pieces of content you make. So using the XCOM spawn restrictor to restrict spawning, you know, from aliens, civilians and advent within each parcel. You can do it for PCPs as well. But yeah, no, it'll randomly, well not randomly, but procedurally generate all the patrols when you load into a map. But you can control where the level starts. You see here, this green cube here is an XCOM, I think it's called Falcon volume? Yeah, XCOM Falcon volume. And again, this is a volume you can create using the tools along the side here and the volume button. This is basically whenever you start the overpass map in XCOM 2, you will spawn somewhere within this volume. And you'll notice, I believe this is not set as an objective parcel. Yeah, so you can spawn in here, but the objective will never be in this parcel. So the map always forces you to cross over the overpass, and this parcel can be an objective. You see it's got the tick here, objective, which is why the overpass level is interesting to play, because if you could spawn here and the objective was right there, you'd just have to walk into the building and do it, and it'd be boring as hell. But the overpass level forces you to cross the overpass into the objective spawn every single time you play it, which is what makes it work. Because you have so many choices, like, do I go up onto the overpass, do I creep through underneath it, do I, you know, go around here to the road and around this side. You have all these choices to make based on the geography of the plot. And this is the same, this is how all the levels are working. You can make these very, very quickly, like, let's say half an hour. You could bring up a plot, place everything down, it's all super easy, it all works exactly the same as the parcel. So I can right click here, find this content in the browser, and then you can see we've got PCP archetypes for slums right here, so we can right click that, fully load, and we've got all our road pieces. We can make a massive intersection, we can create a train network, we've got an overpass here, so we can have 2 or 3, 4 overpasses if we wanted. We've got our sidewalks. The main thing to take into account is that there just has to be no gaps, otherwise we'll have gaps in game as well. The caveat is that you can see there's a gap here between the sidewalk and the parcel. There's a gap. These gaps are filled depending on the size of the driveway here. So notice this driveway is length 2. This driveway is probably length 3. Yep. So it's three tiles long. This one's 2 tiles long. If I set this to 1 tile, you'd have a gap here. So if I do this and set it to 1, now when you load this level in game, you'd have a gap here. If I look at it from top down, you'd have what, a 3x2 gap, and you'd have a 1 tile gap here as well, because it generates to the sides of the driveway. Set that back to 3. So all these gaps around the parcels will be filled in, but like if I deleted this, you'd have a huge gap in the level now here, because there's no driver on this side to tell it to generate outwards, which is generally why you need these pavement pieces. So if I find this in the content browser, you'll find probably lots of different sizes. Actually no, you've got an 8x16, an 8x8. Okay, I thought you'd have some different sizes, but apparently you've just got those two. So the design is very MP-esque, like you have no idea what's going to happen within the space, you just focus on it. Yeah, it's super high level with the plots. So like, obviously the roads are always spawned in the same position. The sidewalks and like the the overpass, it'll always spawn exactly how it is. It's the parcels which will be different every time. And if there's more than one parcel with an objective tag on it, it will randomly pick an objective. And again, like the roads will be randomly generated, so you'll have different vehicles and, you know, different sidewalks, bins, all the clutter there will all be different every time as well. So I picked this one because everyone remembers the overpass level, because it's really cool. Let's load up. I've got, I can't remember which one I've actually shipped, but I think it's this one. Oh no, this one I haven't shipped yet because there's a bug in it. But you can see this one has 2 medium parcels and 2 small parcels. The spawn volume is back there, so you're always going to start next to one of these 2 parcels and then move up through the map, and the objective parcel could be either this one, see here you've got the tag there, or it can be this one with the tag here. And you can even tag roads as objective parcels as well, but it has to be the large roads, not these small ones. Because obviously you can have objectives on roads, like the, you know, you're raiding an advent vehicle, or you're, you know, rescuing an VIP from a vehicle or something from the city centre maps. So you can tag roads as objective parcels, but only the wider ones, not the small ones. So this is a parcel I worked on for a while, but I haven't shipped it yet because for some reason that I haven't worked out why yet, this parcel never generates. It always has a hole. I have no idea why. It's really annoying me. If I can never work out why, then I'll ship this, but... The driveways don't generate bits outside the box you see, the road PCPs just extend further than the models make it look. Oh really? Oh, that is interesting. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. We can have a look at that actually. Let's bring up a... let's bring up a road PCP. I see what you're saying. I just assumed that the driveways would generate. Yeah. So we're gonna open a couple of PCPs now and check this out. So that's kind of interesting. We've got the boulevards. Here we are. So PCPs are the third type of content, and again, like I've vaguely explained already, it's just a very small piece of content like this. So it's just a section of road, basically, and there'll be multiple variations of this so that it never repeats. And this is just what's stamped down in the map to cover the proxy geometry from the plot. But it looks like there's just a small piece of road here. I'm not sure if it does extend out from here. Let's see. Levels. We've got the PCP checker, which again is just the grid. Yeah, I mean, there's an easy way to test it. You could just set the driveways to be the wrong distance and see if it creates a gap or not. But yeah, I see what you're on about. So yeah, PCPs. You'll notice here. Let's load up some. Whoops. Let's load up some variations of exactly the same. Okay, so we've got a boulevard corner, 16 by 16. So this is a road corner. So whenever we place down a corner of a large street using proxy geometry in the plot, it will choose one of these 2 PCPs to fill it with. So you can see here, we're going to game mode, it is literally just a corner. And it has, you know, it's got a bus stop, and it's got some vehicles and some spawn points. Super interesting stuff. And it's got a van here, but this van like sticks out really hard. So if this was the only version of this corner, there would always be a truck on every corner, and it would look really weird. So there's another variation of it here. I'm surprised there's only 2 actually. I expected like 3 or 4 of every piece, but. If we load up this one, there'll probably be maybe a different set of vehicles and some different decorations, you know. There we go. Yeah, so in this one we've got some kind of device in the centre here. There's no vehicles at all. The bus stop's changed. We've got a kind of road sign instead. We've got a little truck on this side. So yeah, that's how the maps are generated. And we've got an 8x8 sidewalk. This is going to be super interesting. Not. It's literally just going to be a sidewalk. So these are all the bits of content that are just stamped down into the map to make it look nice. And again, you can make your own PCPs as well to add even more variation to that. I've done a couple in my mod. Again, this is just literally an 8x8 piece of land. Not much interesting going on there. In fact, I think here we are. I made a variation of a roadblock PCP with a crashed lorry in it. Oh my god, it's almost 7 o'clock. Wow, that went really quick. So yeah, here we go. So this is there's a PCP that looks exactly like this, so I just took it, copied it, added the car crash here, so a resistance like car bomb has gone into the side of an Advent APC here. This is really simple, just added a prefabbed truck, added a prefab APC, added some decals for like the fire burning and, you know, like certain smoke and stuff, added a couple of particle effects of fire, things like that, added some more decals here which get projected onto the side. Added some lights, so you get a little bit of like a glow coming off of it, and that's it. Got a brand new PCP. So sometimes when there's a Advent roadblock in the plot, you'll get this, and that's basically how my entire mod works. It's just more and more variations of more tiles, so that hopefully stuff starts to not repeat at all after a while. So what map type would that corner go on? Slums? Yeah, it's for slums only. Again, this is defined in the oh, this is default parcels. I probably need default PCP. Hang on. So if you go into the XCOM 2 SDK folder, go into XCOM game and config, you will find a default default PCPs.ini. So if you open this up, you'll get this. If we go down to small town, trains, city centre, slums, this is where all our definitions are for all our slums pieces. So this piece we just opened, Boulevard Straight 16 by 16 Advent CP, we can find that in here. It's probably under streets, boulevards. Yes, here we are. Advent CP1. So this is the default one for the base game without my edits. So you can see we've got plot type slums, so only spawn in the slums. The type is boulevard, so it will only spawn on boulevard streets. It's a straight, so it won't generate on corners or anything like that. And it's 16 long and wide. And it's a B Advent checkpoint set to true, so if there is an Advent checkpoint on the map, there's a possibility of using this PCP to fill that gap. And that's how you do it as well. You can just copy it straight off here. If you're editing a Firaxis PCP, you can just copy the exact listing for it into your mod, which is what I've done. If we go to my XCOM PCPs, it is themed one-off PCPs, truck T-boned Advent NPC, and we're adding my own definition here with my file name, but everything else is exactly the same. So my version is just added into the existing pool for everything else. Are the cover values backed into the model itself, i.e. when you add the APC model in, does it bring in... Thank you, that's a very good point which I forgot to mention. So pathing and cover is all generated for you. In fact, I have to build it again, otherwise it won't show you. So build paths. Okay, so if you hit P, you have to have built the map at least once. In fact, I haven't even talked about building the map, so that's another really good point. So every time you add a new piece of content to your level, like be it a particle effect or a new model or a new mesh, or you move something around, you have to rebuild the model. You have to rebuild the map. So that's this button up here along the top. It says build all. Basically, you can hit that and then hit save, and you'll be fine. But so you can hit build all. It only takes a couple of seconds. It's basically just compiling some parts of your level into like an optimized format, which is very good. You probably want to do that. But when you do that, it also builds all the paths, and then if you hit P, you can see the path network for your level. And as you can see, all the squares in green are where XCOM soldiers can move to. So you can see we've got the grid, which follows the exact grid from the game. Everything with red on it like this is like unpassable. Or sorry, I think it's denoting like cover basically. And then the game will work out whether it's half cover or full cover. Yeah, so all the red is cover. And you can see you've got these connections here, so this means that soldiers can jump down from above to this tile here. The ladders will have like a light blue in it. The ladders generate automatically as well because you set them up ahead of time using the XCOM ladder actor. So yeah, that's how that works. So you can see here, because this is only a short jump up, it's connected to the floor, so XCOM soldiers can jump up onto the top of this truck and jump down the other side. So for example, I could take this truck now. In fact, let's take the APC because it's a prefab. I could just move it like this, and then if I hit P, you'll notice the paths have not been updated. So the APC has moved, but the paths still say that it's here, which is obviously incorrect. So if we rebuild our paths by clicking here, boom, there you go, now it's moved, it's updated the cover and pathing. And if we move it back, build it again, there you go. That's how pathing works, which is, again, this is another reason of the hundreds I've already mentioned, which is why you really want to build to the grid, especially in XCOM 2, because the grid is what it's used for calculating pretty much everything. Yeah, so you always want to be working on either a 96 or a 48 grid snap here down at the bottom at all times, unless you really want to fiddle with something to get it to line up exactly right. But there's generally special cases for that. If you're using, like, placing this down, you want to be on like a 48 grid or a 96 grid so that it snaps exactly between the grid squares. Because when you start turning off the grid and doing stuff like this, you've probably just invalidated all 6 of these grid squares. They're probably not walkable by XCOM soldiers now. There is a slight leeway, so for example, if I've got it here and I move it into this grid slightly, this grid will probably still be valid for soldiers. In fact, let's build paths and find out. Yeah, so see, I can still move a soldier here and he can still take cover, but as I move it more and more out like this, so let's say I put it halfway, build paths again. Right now, this entire square is now invalid. And if I move it slightly like this as well, build paths, you see I've now invalidated all of these grid squares. Like, you just can't move there anymore. Which is why you always want to be on the grid at all times to avoid horrible things like that happening. How do you fix pathing issues? Well, again, because it's visualized like this in real time, it's really handy to fix stuff like that. Generally, if a square isn't being built for pathing, it's usually because there is an actor in a wrong position somewhere. So you just want to fiddle with your actors a bit. Again, there is a little bit of leeway on the side, so if something's poking out too far in one direction, you can probably move it back, behind to the square behind it a little bit, and it will still generate okay. The biggest problem I've had with pathing is actually stairs. In fact, if I load up my my landing deck, where is it? It is a map, it is a parcel, it is a small town, I think. I think it's this one. Stairs give me some trouble sometimes. It can be quite annoying to try and fix. I really have to go in a minute, I've got to catch a bus soon. 7 o'clock came around really fast. But I will do this. I will show you guys this, and I think I'll have to call it a night. Do some more tomorrow perhaps. I didn't know you could do that, thank you. Yeah, no problem. That's what this whole stream's about. Wow, this is taking ages to load. Bet the editor's crashed. Which it will do. Oh no, there we go. Brilliant. Okay, no, this isn't what I wanted at all. Oh yeah, that's right, I was editing this parcel to give some more variation to it. I never actually finished it, did I? Okay, so... landing pad, maybe it's Epic Security. I can't remember what I've called my own stuff. But basically, any kind of size stairs, they have to be really specifically placed. Otherwise, the pathing won't generate properly for them. It will think you either have to step up the stairs, which will look really weird. Your soldiers will like climb up the stairs like they climb up a cliff or something, or they just won't be able to move up and down the stairs at all. Which can be quite frustrating to try and fix. You just have to kind of keep moving them around slightly until it generates correctly. There might be a better way to do it, but yeah, I'm not sure. Suddenly my PC's got really slow. Come on, you can do it. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so these stairs, if I bring up the pathing... Oh, I have to build it again, that's right. So if the first time you load a parcel, the pathing information won't be available to the editor, so you have to rebuild paths once. Just so you can get the visualization for it. There we go. So you can see it, this is what... And even here it's got a little bit buggy. So you can see here it thinks there's cover at the bottom of the stairs here. So yeah, it's... I think it still works, but it's just not visualized correctly. But you can see here you should have these gradients along your stairs like this. That's how it should look, I think. At least these work in games, so you know. But like if some of these squares are missing, and you've got like cover things like on the stairs, then that could be like a bad thing. But generally, pathing issues are relatively simple to fix. It's normally just a case of something is sticking out a little bit too far and you can just move it back. You can see here, like this ladder sticks out quite far into this tile, but it still generates correctly. And like these walls as well, they're kind of... The walls stick out into the tiles a little bit, but they kind of have to because they're quite thick. But they still generate just fine. Pardon me. So yeah, and that's P. You press P to bring up the pathing visualizer. And G to go into game mode, to see what it looks like in game. So yeah, that is that. I'm going to have to call it a day now, unfortunately. I was going to actually start working on some of my Advent wall sections. So I can load one up quickly, but don't have actually time to work on it now. So PCP's Wilderness Advent Facility. So we've got some... Let's load up a straight section here. So again, these are PCPs, so you can make all the different sections for it, just like you would with the road. So you've got corners, straight sections, courts, boulevards, all that kind of stuff. So that when you're placing them in your plots, you know, you can generate a wall any shape you like. Wow, why is it taking so long to load? This wall section's got like 4 props in it and that's it. we go. Yeah, so this is just an 8x8 section of wall. If I hit game mode, so you can see, I can probably show you it on nighttime because it looks a hell of a lot better. So you can see here I've loaded. We've got Ember Lighting Day, which is currently on, and we've got Ember Lighting Nature Night, which is the nighttime setting. So we turn that off and turn that on. We can have a look what the parcel looks like in nighttime setting, which is much cooler. So you can imagine, you know, the proxy geometry is placed down in the plot for an 8x8 section, and then this will be placed into the map on that 8x8 section in game. We've got a variation of it without the tower here. And again, this tower is set up to perhaps be a turret. I can't remember what weighting I put on here, so yeah. There's quite a high chance of this being a turret if it's generated. Originally there was not a window, but then I figured if XCOM are all starting on this side and all the aliens start on this side, they're never going to see each other, which could be really boring, so I added a window section to a lot of the wall pieces. So that's that, and then, you know, you've just got a couple of variations of that, and you've got a corner section as well. That's where I am right now with that. I just need to build the plots out now with the walls in, and pretty much carry on making variations. Make some plots with the walls in, and then I can release an update to the mod with that, and then build some more parcels for the actual objective locations later on. Alright. Okay, I apologise, I was actually going to do some editing this stream, but never actually got around to it because I ended up doing a full tutorial, but that's okay. I hope it was useful to everyone. I will be uploading this to YouTube. Yes. YouTube, that's yes. And I'll post a link probably on the XCOM subreddit in the thread. I'll post on my More Maps Pack Steam page as well. Because hopefully it will help some people. I kind of did ramble a bit, but you know, that's what Twitch is all about. So yeah, thanks for watching. Any questions, you can get hold of me on Twitter at TDDaz. I post all kinds of level design related shit there for XCOM and other games as well. I do have a YouTube channel, but it has absolutely no XCOM content on it right now, so it probably won't be for you. I do like level reviews for Quake, Half-Life 2, various other games, like lots of mods, and just talking